Yo, everybody, what's going on?
Hey.
This is The Creative Process, hosted by Tiana Stone, the Creative. I'm your host, and I have another incredible guest. Uh, this is Pierre Paloma, also known as Pierre Nix, also known as Pierre Out There,
Hey.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Movie note. But yes, Pierre is a really cool and dear friend of mine. It's a pleasure to have him on the show. Just an incredible percussionist, DJ, musician, creative. Yeah. Introducing Pierre.
Hey. Thanks for having me, T. I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Yeah, of course. No, I love having really cool conversations with artists who I love and appreciate and who I've had the pleasure of working with in the past. And you were one of the people who came to mind, so I'm very happy about this.
Awesome. Thank you.
But yes, let the people know about you, Pierre. What's your vibe?
What my vibe is. So like you were saying, T, I'm a percussionist, I'm a DJ, I'm a producer. I consider myself a musician first and foremost, and all those things that I do kind of fall under that. But yeah, that's kind of what I do. Those are the three things that I do musically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to get to know more about your journey and how you started. I mean, that's always the question, because I'm in past conversations that we had on the show, like, people start out differently, or like there's no necessarily like end point, but I'm wondering,
Yeah.
like, did you have like a start point, or did it kind of like gradually go for you in your journey?
I guess gradually, because I mean, not until I was like halfway through college, I didn't really see myself like trying to be a musician full time kind of thing. But I mean, I've always been surrounded by music. Both my parents are musicians. My dad's a singer. My mom's a singer. My dad also plays bass. He's been in a couple. He plays guitar as well. He's been in a couple groups as an adult. A couple years ago, a cappella group that he was with was touring in Europe. He sang in the church choir. I've seen that like my whole life growing up, him doing that. And then my mom, she's a pianist, classically trained pianist. She teaches piano lessons. She's also a singer. So I saw a lot of my parents singing for like family functions growing up. My mom taught me piano when I was really young. I also used to play cello. And I just like my brothers are all into music, or my one brother sings, plays bass, and my other brother, he is a touring musical theater actor. My two other brothers are into music as well. So yeah, I was just like surrounded by it growing
So
up.
just all around coming from a very talented family.
Yeah. And they like definitely encourage like both my parents were really big on it's important to listen to everything. So like I listened to a lot of classical stuff. I got into jazz, maybe a little more towards being an adult, but even like pop, hip hop stuff, my parents definitely encouraged like, no, you should listen to like everything kind of stuff. But like as far as like me actually being more involved in like production and DJing and stuff like that, when I was really young, I used to make like mixtapes for like family parties, not thinking anything about like pursuing that as an adult. It's just something I like to do. And my uncle always had like really cool records. So like that was really cool. Going to family parties with my little cassette tapes. So I did that a lot. And then when I was in middle school, I was in this computer program that taught us how to build computers. And there was like the software program. I don't know if anybody remembers Acid Express. You know Acid?
I do a little. I think so. Yeah.
So I used to someone was showing me how to make beats on there, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. So like, I started making like little beats, and like I would take songs that I liked and I would just like kind of extend them, like do like instrumental breaks, make them really long and stuff like that. And like I wasn't showing it to anybody. I was just, I really like this song. I want to make it longer. So I used to do a lot of that kind of stuff. And then when I was in college, I hooked up with a bunch of hip hop kind of producers, and that was kind of the thing that everybody did on the side and like outside of class. And so I got like kind of wrapped up in that. And that was when I kind of realized like, oh, I think I want to try to do this full time.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. that's a really cool start to a journey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not to go from like your starting point to now, but how has now been in terms of like where you are in your journey?
So me playing, like, I played instruments growing up, but like as far as like percussion, which is like my main instrument, the only reason I started playing percussion was because I wanted to make better beats. Because I felt like, having played piano and cello, I felt like I was a little more comfortable making melodies and harmonies, but I felt like the drums, the beats weren't really as tight as I felt like they could have been. So I was like, well, let me learn how to play drums. And yeah, now I feel like that's probably like what I'm, as far as making tracks goes, that's probably what I feel like where my strengths are, is like more rhythmic kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I like it all. I really enjoy really nice chord progressions. I really like to make nice melodies. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, so okay, so I like to think of questions on the spot on the show
Yeah.
because now I'm kind of I'm interested. Like, what is your creative process like? Like, take us through like Pierre sitting down, wanting to start a song. Like, where do you start? What is your process like?
So I've been doing a lot of remixes lately. So
Mm.
what I'll do is I'll either take a acapella that already exists, or I'll like use some kind of program where I can strip it down to the stems. Um, I try not to listen to the original track too much.
Mm.
And then I'll kind of let the melody, whether it's a singer or like a rapper, I'll let the melody kind of dictate what I'm gonna do.
Mm.
Um, so depending on the track and like what I'm kind of feeling, I'll probably start with the harmonies and stuff first. And then I'll put the drums down, and then usually I'll go back. I won't like the harmonies anymore, and then and then I'll change them to something else. I try really hard to change the key
Mm.
of remixes because I think it's fun and
That's really cool.
it's challenging. If I really really like it, I'll probably keep it the same and like just do some different orchestration. But yeah, I'll try to change the key and try to make something that sounds interesting. For me, I'm definitely somebody that has to work on things in intervals. I don't usually just bang something out the first time because a lot of times I have to come back to something I'm working on with fresh ears,
Mm.
because if I stay on something too long, it doesn't like register anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, once I come back with fresh ears and hear stuff that I wasn't hearing before, or it doesn't like hit the same way, after I do that kind of a couple times, then yeah, the song will kind of dictate when it's done. Um every time I try to set like deadlines or like this is when this is going to be finished, like it never works.
Hmm.
So like I kind of have to let it um breathe a little bit, and then
Yeah.
yeah, when it feels like it's done, it's done.
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
letting it breathe. Cause I mean, deadlines are a concept. I mean, as a creative, it can be so like taxing
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that take. I love that. So wait, what program do you use?
Mostly FL Studio.
FL. Okay.
But I do have Ableton. I'm trying to use it a lot more than I used to, just because I think Ableton is a lot more flexible for live use. I've
Mm.
used it live before in a couple of different settings. But yeah, I mainly use FL Studio.
FL.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, if I'm like for arranging,
Mm.
when it's time to like mix and master and stuff like that, like if someone else is mixing my stuff, it's on Pro Tools.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, different. Actually, yeah, that's really cool. Like different DAWs for different stages of the creative
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
I'll say for me, even when I'm using different DAWs, like it comes out different. The music comes out differently.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because visually it's laid out a certain way, but like I used to use Reason a lot. I always felt like the texture of the music when I'm using Reason sounds different than
Mm.
if I use FL Studio or something else. I've always felt like Reason is just a little warmer. I don't know if that's really the case or not. Maybe it's just a visual trick because they have all the wires and the rack set up,
Yeah.
but it feels warmer on there to me.
Mm.
So Yeah, but I don't know. I like to mix it up every once in a while just to keep things fresh.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I love hearing about your production process, but I am curious to know a little bit more because Pierre is also a fantastic performer as well. Um, so I would love to like just know more about like what your process is in terms of your performance. Because I mean, as a percussionist,
You know.
being able to work with different types of people and different styles. Actually, can we dive deep into like what your background is in terms of performance? Like,
Yeah, well, so when I was in college, I was actually a theater major.
oh, what?
Yeah, that was my
I was a
major.
theater minor.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, when I was like really, really young, my mom used to have us like tap dancing and like I said, I used to play cello for like the school orchestra. And so I think I've always been, to a certain extent, with an instrument in front of me. I've always been comfortable on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang on choir and stuff when I was younger. And yeah, like I sang in a couple bands. But I guess what was the question
Your
again?
your background in terms of a performer.
Yeah, so up in like I said, like I didn't really start playing percussion until college.
Mm.
Like I started that because it's a really interesting story.
Oh, tell.
I was in a class called I went to Cheney University for college, and I took a class called the African American Experience in a Global Context.
Mm.
So that class kind of really opened my eyes to being like a Black person, not only in America, but like, like, oh, like I kind of learned about like Pan-Africanism and like how to kind of look at myself as a Black person, not just of the United States, but a Black person of the world. And so being as though I was really curious about like making my beats and my rhythms sound better, I was like, I want to study African drumming. And so I happened to like right when I really needed it, I happened to come across somebody at work who saw me just like tap my hands as I'm like sitting there. She's like, oh, do you play drums? I'm like, no, but I would like to. She's like, oh, I've got just the person for you. And so yeah, my drum teacher, Jan Jeffries, who's a Philadelphia percussionist. She plays a lot of African styles, a lot of Latin styles. She does a lot of fusion kind of stuff. So I kind of started studying under her.
Mm.
And yeah, it was like super serendipitous the way we came across one another. And yeah, I still like play with her to this day. Still teaching me stuff. We just had a show at the Rotunda on Sunday.
Nice.
For it was for like a honoring women kind of thing because it's Women's History Month.
Mm.
Yeah, so I was on timbales. We had somebody on congas. She was on drum set, and she had djembe, and someone else on congas, and someone else on bass. So yeah, like that's kind of how I started playing percussion.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite percussion instrument?
I'm probably the most proficient on congas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to really, really enjoy timbales just because when you're playing with sticks, the articulation is different, and the like how fast you can move your hands is a little different because you're using these sticks and you can play a little bit louder.
Mm-hmm.
But that might just because it's a little newer, so it feels a little I haven't been playing as long as congas, so it still feels like very, very fresh. But I don't know, congas are so much fun because the melodies are so beautiful. It took me a very long time to kind of hear them because I think I was looking at them as like very much like I wasn't thinking about pitch so much because I'm thinking like drums, but like no, congas like you're playing melodies, and it's a lot since they're drums and you're not playing like long notes. It especially if you're playing like African style or like Latin style, it can be very repetitive if you're not soloing or anything like that, but the melodies are so beautiful. So I don't know if I have a good answer for that.
No, I love that answer.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, thinking about drums, I feel like a lot of times people don't think about how melodies can be created from
Definitely.
drums, and the tone very much so matters.
It does.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if you're playing like more traditional stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it's cool because like, you know, someone who's been doing it for a very long time, who knows what they're doing, they might not even necessarily tune that much.
Hmm.
Of course, it depends on the context. It depends on like where everybody else is pitch wise and all that. But you know, if it sounds good, you know, it sounds good.
Yeah.
So like I said, unless you're playing like tradition where like it's a little more or certain styles where like it's a little more strict and you want this has to be a fifth, the interval has to be a fifth apart. Like, you know, but it depends on what you're doing, what you're trying to
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh man. So, I mean, you're so knowledgeable about all these things. Um, from definitely from my perspective. Um,
Thank you.
but I am interested. Because I feel like we've talked about this a little bit on the show in the past. The concept of like music theory and
Mm.
um, you know, how would you say your relationship is with like music theory and you as a student and just like music in general in terms of like always learning?
Yeah. So I happen to be somebody who enjoys music theory because I see it as a tool.
Mm.
It's a theory. It meaning like there's always going to be something new to discover or learn. My relationship with it has been like okay, so I grew up playing, I was like classically trained to a certain extent. So like I learned, you know, scales and how to read music, playing piano and playing cello and things like that. It's definitely been something that has assisted me with my own compositions and my own production. But I think it's very important to remember that it is a tool, meaning that music theory, at the end of the day, your songs have to sound good. And music theory like is not necessarily going to give you that. If you like, there's rules and things like that, and you can use it to do certain things, but at the end of the day, if it sounds good, it sounds good. There's plenty of people out here, people with Grammys and people who've been doing music for X amount of time. Their ear dictates what it is that, I mean, everybody's ear should really dictate what happens first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're somebody who uses theory as a tool, depending on how you use it, it definitely can, you know, be an asset. But I think it's very important to not allow it to completely dictate what it is that you're doing. From a compositional perspective, it has to feel right what you're doing. I think it just gives you a lot more options. It gives you more colors to explore. If you know, if you don't know it, like you might just know red, blue, and yellow. But learning theory will allow you access to pink and, you know, green and all these, you know, different options that you might have. But you got to be careful because some people get stuck in it and it doesn't allow them to do certain things. Like I know plenty of people that know music theory way, way better than me, but like they don't know how to improvise, or if they get put in a position where they have to improvise, they can't do it. So I use it when I feel like I'm trying to get access to something that I don't have access to. I'll try to use it then. Or if I hear something that I don't know how to make happen, I'll try to use it then. Or like I'll take like a standard I'll take like a standard jazz progression and be like, I want to use this on a hip hop song because I like how it sounds. You know, maybe manipulate the chords a little bit. Or like if I want to come up with a really interesting introduction for a song that is going to be kind of repetitive, I'm like, oh, I'll come up with a really cool progression for like an intro kind of thing. So yeah, it's a tool. You just use it like a tool. But like by no means do I think it should dictate what, like it shouldn't dictate everything that you're trying to do, everything that you're trying to express. Because I think it can also be a crutch.
Yeah, I agree. Because especially with the sentiment of, you know, because I know sometimes some people feel like it's a necessity in order to like do what we do.
Yeah.
But I feel like a nice balance between using it as a tool and not letting it dictate your creativity is very prime. Yeah.
And, you know, context is everything too. Like if you're trying to play jazz, I feel like you better know theory.
Yeah,
Like
you gotta know.
you should, because you're just not going to be able to have those conversations with other jazz musicians. Now I'm sure there's probably a few jazz musicians out there that would disagree with that. I mean, I know for me, if I was playing more jazz stuff, like I would want to up my ability to express certain things. And I think also knowing theory, there's a certain discipline that gets instilled in you as well, which
Yeah.
is important depending on context, what it is that you're trying to do. But like, if you're making hip hop beats, I think it'll help. I think it'll make you stand out, and I think it'll give you an edge that maybe other people don't have. But do you have to know it? I mean, if your ear's good,
Yeah. As long as the music sounds good, that's all that matters. Yeah.
But like, I'm kind of a nerd, so like I like learning that kind of stuff anyway. But yeah, by no means do I think you have to have it, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Nerds. Yeah. I'm a nerd too, in terms of just all the audio tech stuff, and I kind of feel like you're this way too, in the sense of being an artist, but also being able to produce and knowing all that technical stuff when it comes to making sure that the record or the song sounds the way that you want it to. So I am curious, like, in terms of because it sounds like you were definitely a performer from the jump, and then like learning as a producer and a tech nerd and all that stuff, like that stuff came later. So, or I'm assuming.
So, well,
correct me.
So my dad is like, I grew up seeing my dad videotape weddings and like editing, so he can give this tape to these people that got married that hired him to do that. And he would take me on shoots sometimes and like give me a little $20 or whatever for helping. But yeah, my dad used to work at the Leah Core Center. He was what was he? I think he was a sound guy. Yeah, I think he was a sound guy at the Leah Core Center for a while. And he taught communications at William Penn High School before they tore that down. So and he always had gear at the house. Like they were like reel to reel decks, like just sitting around, a bunch of stereos. So like, I think I've always been interested in gear, just having it around me so much. I took apart my stereo when I was a lot younger just to see what was on the inside. Like, just I was curious. So yeah, I love gear.
It came hand in hand for you.
Yeah.
In terms of being a tech person and also being a performer. I love that.
Yeah. I don't see, maybe I should see them as a little more separate, but like when I was a theater major, I was very much, I would lead in plays sometimes, but then also I was like, I want to stage manage. I want to be in the booth. I want to work the soundboard. I just like having a whole overview of everything that's going on. That kind of thing is important to me. I don't know why, but I just like knowing about all the moving parts that are happening in like a production or like the run of a production. Like I had to do a little bit of like promo stuff. I had to like talk to all these outside people that were working, with the director. And I like knowing a little bit of everything when it comes to what I'm working on creatively.
Yeah, no, that's literally the point I was trying to make. But like in terms of being multifaceted, and not needing, but ending up learning everything or knowing about as many things as possible when it comes to production or promotion or various other aspects. Like, yeah, how important is it for you to kind of dip your hands in different things like that as an artist and as an independent artist?
It's important for a couple of reasons. Nowadays, I think you have to know a little bit of everything anyway. I think it gives you an edge that, somebody who's very singular, maybe they won't necessarily have. I think that, for example, being experienced or at least having a little bit of knowledge when it comes to like mixing and mastering and that sort of thing, I think it allows me to communicate with people who, like, they're an engineer. It allows me to communicate with them a little better than someone who, is just a singer, because I know the tech lingo, while also being able to describe in like more abstract terms what it is that I'm trying to get. I can be a little more specific. And I think it allows me to be a little more clear on what I'm trying to communicate. So, and then like, I'm just curious about everything, and I'm just interested in everything. So like that's kind of where it comes from, but also from like being practical. I think it's important nowadays to know a little bit of everything.
Mm.
I think you have to have your forte. I think you have to have your like one thing that you're really good at, but like I think it's important to be a little knowledgeable about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, not to kind of like put a hierarchy to things, but what would you say is your forte out of the numerous things that you do, Pierre? What would you say is your forte?
I don't know. That might be a question for somebody else who sees what I'm doing to answer.
Or top three, not in any particular order.
I mean, the main three things I do: percussion, DJ, production. So I don't know. I guess it depends on the month, like what I'm kind of leaning on more. Because I mean, like people ask me to do like a little bit of all three of those things. I mean, I put myself in a position to have that happen. I don't know.
But
I think I more recently I get the biggest rush from DJing just because I really, really like sharing things that I like with people. I mean, I like it's very different depending on what the gig is. Like if I'm doing like, and I'm sure like all DJs can like kind of attest to this. When you're doing like, generally when you're doing like weddings and corporates and things like that, it's a little more, you're kind of playing what they want to hear kind of stuff. It's a little more like standard or like typical kind of format. Generally, you'll get those odd couples every once in a while that I'd be like, oh no, I just want you to play what we know you for. That's always nice. But like when I'm doing like club gigs or when I'm doing I have a residency at Bob and Barbara's every second Saturday. I do like a happy hour kind of thing there. Where we also have a live percussion playing as well. That's every second Saturday of the month.
Yes.
But like for those type gigs where I can kind of express myself musically, I get it just feels so good to be able to play stuff that I think people don't know that I think they'll like, because it's in a particular lane. I play mostly like dance music. So yeah, when I hear like some Brazilian club song that I randomly came across and I'm like, oh, this beat is like really dope. I don't like know what they're saying, but like this beat is awesome and it'll fit right in with like this set I already have in mind. I want to play this. I want to see if people will like it. Like that I get a really big rush playing that kind of stuff live. I love doing that. But yeah, like that's kind of what I've been doing that since I was a kid, like to a certain extent. Like, because I used to like with cassettes, this is before like internet radio or anything like that. And I'm like 10. I used to have to like just be in my room all day on like a Saturday when I didn't have school, like playing video games with the sound off, listening to the radio, like waiting for this song that I really like to come on, and then like pausing the game, running over and hitting record really quick because I'm trying to catch the song. So like, I feel like I'm still like doing that to a certain extent.
I love that.
I'm still doing that. Like I'm still like, my ears are always like, if I'm on the street, like let's say, for example, this didn't happen, but like, for example, on my way in here, if some car's passing and I'm like, what is that? And like they have their music really loud. What is that? I got like my phone out on Shazam, like chasing after. Like literally, this is the type of stuff I do. Like I'll like hopefully I can catch it and
love
then
that.
put it in my next set. Like so it's like a lot of that. But yeah, I get like such a rush playing stuff that, because it's a little nerve-wracking too. You don't know if people are gonna like it. There's no like guarantee that it's gonna slap.
Yeah.
But I like it, and knock on wood, I think I have halfway decent taste. So like,
yes, you do.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh wait, so now I'm curious, because I mean, discovering music and figuring out like what you want, your ear is always open to new things. Those are some aspects of building your DJ set. But what are some other things that you do in order to prepare for a set?
So I do. It's a lot of building a playlist. If I like, all right, let's say for example, I know I have a show coming up in a month. It'll be like those first 3 weeks of the month. Like let's say it's at the end of the month. The first 3 weeks, I'll just really, because I'm always building. Like even if I don't know if I have something coming up, I'll have like a playlist for like some random thing that might happen. So I'm always building, and then maybe like a week before, I'm like, okay, let me start like really putting the playlist together and really kind of building the way that I want the arc of the night to kind of go, the flow that I want, the way the energy is going to move. So I try to pay close attention to that. And then, yeah, just kind of build it from that. Like I'm trying to tell a story over the night. So like I'll start with, my lower energy kind of stuff. And then, your height of the party kind of stuff. You have a nice little build up to that. In the meantime, I'm like switching genres in a way that I think makes sense. And they all kind of fit together up to the peak. And then, you got you're depending on the gig, like cool down kind of thing after that. So of course, like, I'll like build the playlist or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what I'm going to play because they might not be feeling it.
That's true.
The time that people are filtering in or the way the energy is moving might not fit what I plan. So you got to be able to think on your feet and switch it up real quick. And then like, you always have like your go-tos, your songs that you feel like are going to work. And yeah, that's kind of how it goes for me.
No, I love that because I mean, I believe you are the first DJ on the show. If I can remember
cool.
that. Success. But and like the question of like adaptability, like how important is that for you in terms of like your night?
It's everything. It's everything. Everything. That's why all that planning that I do and stuff like that, I know in the back of my mind I might not. There's been a few times where I haven't been able to play anything off the playlist. I did because like I'm somebody who does more artistic gigs and then like more like weddings and stuff like that too. I did a bar mitzvah a couple of months ago where the person who hired me was kind of a shout out to World Town. She was very much like a World Town kind of a person who will come to a World Town show. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm thinking I can do like like a variety of like different kind of stuff. And so I had planned my playlist according to that. But then when I got there, her extended family that was very Orthodox, and they kind of shut that down. And I hadn't even gotten into my more like experimental kind of stuff. I was playing like Fats Waller and like stuff from like the 20s. Like I was playing like Duke Ellington. Like I was playing that kind of stuff to kind of start the night off because there was a lot of older people there. And her sister came over and was kind of like, can you not play any female vocalists? My dad is very Orthodox and like we can't have any female singers. And I'm like, okay, this is Fats Waller, but all right. I get what you're saying. So yeah, like I couldn't play any of the stuff. So I'm like on the fly, like she had given me a bunch of Israeli songs to mix with the other stuff I was gonna play. But like I don't know Israeli. Like I didn't even know, like I'm like, I don't like trying to preview the song real quick because I don't like understand what the titles are. So I don't like really know what song is that I'm gonna play next. But so I'm like doing that. Luckily, a bunch of the guys there were like, "Oh, can you play? Can you?" So they were asking me for a bunch of requests, but they were like, very tame. They weren't tame. It's just that they were. I was gonna play clean stuff anyway because it was a bar mitzvah, but like it was very like they were asking me to play a bunch of Israeli songs, like Israeli pop songs, and I made it work. I had to make it work. You know what I mean? That's what I got hired to do. And so like at the end of the night, one of the kids, this is the best bar mitzvah ever. So that like felt really good. But I'm like, all right, if you say so. All right, I'm glad I pulled it off. Like they told me I was doing a good job, but like you don't know when you're up there. Like I'm not out there dancing and I'm like thinking, oh, I gotta, you know, if I'm playing a song, you know, you only got like 3 minutes to like, you know, depending on the genre you're playing, but like you only got like 3 minutes to figure out what song I'm playing next. I don't understand the title. I hopefully the song that they're asking me to play is clean. Hopefully it slaps because they're out here dancing. You know, I don't want them to go sit down. You know what I mean? So it worked. And I was really I was very proud of myself after that for making it work without too much of a snag. But like, you know, you also got to put your diplomat hat on. I got this lady who's like super open to whatever, and she kind of wanted to a certain extent, let me do my thing. But then I have family members that are coming and like they didn't want that at all. So like I had to find a balance of that. Mind you, they're coming up to me and talking to me, asking me to do this, that, asking me not to do this and that. You didn't hire me, she hired me.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, so I have to navigate that. So there's a lot to it, you know. It's none up there just hitting play. Like
no, yeah,
there's a lot going on.
No, seriously, and I think that's important for, you know, people who aren't DJs to know about DJs, the complexity of it. It's not just like hitting play on a playlist. Like you're dictating the vibe, and that's a very tough job to do. So I think that's really important to discuss and lay it out there.
But of course, at the end of that, it was a learning experience. It further hit home for me. Be prepared to switch gears because you don't know what you're walking into. You think you know, so I'm somebody I'm more confident when I'm prepared. So I have to, even if I don't play anything, it's fine. At least I know, like, all right, I got something walking into here. I'm not like completely naked. But like, you know, nowadays I'm depending on. If it's a gig I've done multiple times, I can kind of go in and like, all right, I can kind of wing it. But you know, if I want to play new stuff though, I have to kind of, you know, have my new stuff, and then you know. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. No, that's a really good story. I think you told that story before, but thank you for sharing it again. No, that's good.
Oh yeah, I told you that story. Yeah, that's right. That's funny.
No,
that's funny.
They were coming up to you like hard.
I mean, yeah, because it was like when I say orthodox, it's like the dudes with the hats with the curlies and like, you know, the men and women were dancing separately on the dance floor. They weren't dancing together. I didn't know I was walking into that. I didn't know that's what it was going to be. Because like I said, the woman who hired me, whose son it was, you know, she's like this liberal kind. I'm assuming this liberal kind of. You know, from the conversations that we had before that, before her even figuring out I'm a DJ and all that. You know what I mean? So like, you know, I didn't know that's what it was going to be.
No, it happens.
Yeah, but you know, you do what you got to do.
You do what you got to do.
Make it work.
Yeah, definitely. Got to make it work. Yeah. I mean, so many questions. So many questions I have because you're just such a cool person, Pierre.
Thank you too.
But yeah, nah. I mean, so I guess one thing that I'm curious about is if I can get my question out. Like, because I know that you work with Worldtown, shout out, and just like a couple of other cool people. What has it been like? Actually, what has it been like as an artist, like making those connections with people in order to get in those, not get in those, but have those opportunities with other artists like that? Like, what has it been like? Like, what has it been like putting yourself out there, and then like, how would you, vouch for the importance of putting yourself out there as an artist? Because sometimes I feel like a lot of artists struggle with doing that. So I'm curious what your experience has been like.
So my connect to Worldtown started with the Boom Room. So yeah, I know you know the Boom Room very well. Shout out to Gary Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interning at the Boom Room. I don't remember how long ago that was. Years ago, I used to intern at the Boom Room, and yeah, Gary, who's the owner of the studio and also the drummer for Worldtown, asked if I was available to like do roadie stuff for them. So like I used to be their roadie. One really kind of turning point gig for me in terms of really being exposed, I guess, to what the band is like really about. I got the privilege of being asked to go to Gratitude Migration, which was a PEX event in New Jersey on this beach. And yeah, I was with the band we were there for a couple days. Yeah, and I was just like helping set up stuff, set up the gear, and like hang out and like kind of absorb and listen to people talk about what they were doing and like kind of be on site helping to set up and like seeing everything that kind of went into putting up a World Town production. So that was a very big deal for me doing stuff like that. And so that turned into shout out to Stan the Man, who used to be the percussionist for World Town. He passed, and I had an opportunity to fill in for a couple gigs, because he wasn't available. So that was definitely a stretch for me because World Town sets are long. They're a lot longer than and it doesn't like feel like that necessarily anymore, but like they were longer than some of the bands that I used to play with. And even like the rehearsals were longer than some of the rehearsals that I would do for some of the other bands I worked with. So they really, as a musician, I got really stretched in a good way. And I had more solo opportunities and stuff like that. So I had to like get my chops together. So there's a lot of that. So yeah, for like, I was working with them to do a couple gigs after that. And then when Pablo Batista, who's their main percussionist, started gigging with them, that was great. Cause like I used to, I was kind of Pablo's roadie for a little bit where I was like, my job was like making sure Pablo was cool. That was dope because, Pablo's like a Grammy winning, percussionist, Latin percussionist. And so just watching him in rehearsal space, watching the way that he did things, listening to the things that he had to say, because I think definitely for the group, he's one of the more seasoned musicians, and really paying attention to his approach and paying attention to the discipline that he brought. And again, listening to things that he would say when like the band's trying to work out certain parts, and listening to how he would say, oh, we should approach it this way, and listening to his reasonings and things like that was awesome. And then like even simple stuff, just like looking at the way he set up his congas, looking at the way he set up his timbales, the way he set up his instruments around him, because he needs to get to certain things very quickly. Just watching stuff like that definitely influenced the way that I kind of approach the, when I do World Town gigs, let alone other gigs now. So yeah, that's how I kind of got hooked up with World Town. But I'll say the Boom Room in general really was great for getting me more immersed in the music community in Philadelphia, no matter what it kind of turned into, whether it's like, oh, I'm doing this person saw me do this live stream with this band that I used to play with, shout out to Mixed People. Yeah, somebody seeing me do that, like, oh, Pierre, can you play percussion for this? Or like, just Ben, band leader for World Town, has this gig somewhere. Oh, Pierre, can you fill in DJing and conducting for World Town? Like, just through the Boom Room, like that's where a lot of those opportunities came from. Or even like just meeting people at like when music church used to be more regular, meeting people there. That was like a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And then just like being around Gary and hearing stuff that he would have to say about this person, this big name that he has coming through the studio, and why he thought it was important that the interns pay attention to the way that this person does things, pay attention to who this is. Do you know who this is? Do you know why they're important? Like Gary was always very good at sharing knowledge, and his whole approach and how he runs the boom room was super instrumental to not only professionally, but like me just feeling comfortable moving a certain way in these environments. And you know, being around people that like are very willing to share information, very willing to share opportunities,
Yeah.
very willing to kind of take you under their wing, or just, you know, just kind of like being around you. You know what I mean? Like that was a big deal for me. And so yeah, that's kind of really been a catalyst for like a lot of the stuff that I do.
Yeah, I can attest to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So like even when we first met and you're like, oh, I interned at the boom. I was like, oh, okay, we family, girl. Like yeah, like Gary, guys, that's you know, that's a big homie right there.
Oh yes. Shout out Gary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shout out Gary.
No, yeah, seriously. Yeah, like the ability to make connections through that place is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it lends itself to that, being as though the way Gary runs it again as like a more communal kind of space. I think it definitely lends itself to those kind of things, which is great because it just fosters, I think, this sense of community amongst musicians, which is really important. Like, because, you know, our field is a little different than other fields where like, you know, that, I mean, I guess every field, like networking is important, but like, I think with music, sometimes it can be a little harder to establish those connections.
Yeah.
And it can be a little cliquey sometimes because, you know, it's not like some big corporation. There's not some main corporation that like puts together events and stuff like that. So it's always great when you have these kind of network leaders that put those kind of things together, whether it's on like an ongoing basis, like somewhere like the Boom Room, or like, you know, somebody who does like events every once in a while where they're intentionally trying to get musicians together. Super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh man. I would love to ask your experience with like the Philly music community, because I mean, at least from my experience, I feel like the Philly music community is a little bit more communal,
Yeah.
more family oriented in a way, versus, I mean, I haven't spent too much time in New York or Los Angeles, but versus like New York or Los Angeles in that sense. Would you agree a little bit?
I definitely feel like because Philly is not quite as big as those cities, the community is a little bit smaller, but it's good because I tend to thrive in smaller environments, because I think it can be a little easier to navigate. It's not so separate kind of little pockets as it probably is in other places. So I definitely feel like in Philly, it's a little easier to network for that reason. I definitely think we have a sound. Philly has a certain, and I think everybody outside of Philly, like, I think they'll say that, like, we definitely have a certain sound. And I think that's regardless of a different genre that you might try to do. Whether it's hip hop, we definitely have our own flavor when it comes to hip hop.
Yep.
Definitely have our own flavor when it comes to R&B and soul, for sure. House music, underground house, we definitely have our own sound. I think Jersey's lumped into that as well. I think probably DC as well. Like we overlap a little bit when it comes to that kind of stuff. But yeah, like it's cool because I feel like I certainly, as I get older, I have a little bit more insight into the little kind of pockets, the little kind of communities that are in Philly, whether it's like the more instrumental musician kind of stuff, the DJ kind of community, or you know, the more vocalist kind of stuff. Yeah, like there's ways that you can get yourself where you want to be here that I think might be a little easier to navigate than those other places. I'd like to know what you think about this too, but like I feel like Philly definitely has a ceiling, because we're right next to New York. You know what I mean?
That's true. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, and it's a little smaller, so there's a little bit of a ceiling. Like I think there's a certain limit to how far you can go here, depending on what you're trying to do.
That is true.
I think there's a limit to how far you can go, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, it can be a great thing, because I still think there's enough of a community to where you can certainly build a following. And if if you work hard enough and you look hard enough, you can definitely make a living as a musician here.
Yeah.
You gotta really work and really look, though. But also, no, it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to be a musician anywhere.
No, seriously, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I say here, like, it's a little easier to hit that limit,
that plateau
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are trying to get yourself together so you can maybe, for lack of a better term, graduate to these other spaces, I think Philly's a phenomenal place to do that. And I do think the more kind of underground communities that we have, regardless of what kind of music you do, I think they're very strong. And you'll definitely get people that will keep coming to what it is that you're doing, whether it is like from an audience perspective or like a community of musicians kind of perspective. You can definitely get a base here for sure.
Yeah.
So like when I go to these, like, underground house parties, like, you see a lot of the same people, because they love I think they love the music, but also it's a very strong sense of community, which is super dope. More underground stuff.
More underground stuff.
Yeah,
no, I agree with that sentiment. And I actually I like there is a sense of a ceiling, not because there's limitations here, but
I think it's more of a size thing than anything else.
Yeah, I think I do think it's definitely a size thing, and also just like in terms of what the city is known for. I do think we are definitely known for our arts, but definitely not to the extent of like New York or Los Angeles. And I do think there are definitely opportunities here, but I feel like sometimes there are other opportunities out there that call us outward.
Yeah, for sure.
But I definitely do think that Philly is a really good place to like base yourself in terms of like having like a headquarters.
Yeah.
This is a really good place to do it. Cause what is it? I don't know if I ever told you the story, but when I was in college, like I was having that conversation with myself, like, do I have to, if I want to do this music thing, do I have to go to a New York or Los Angeles to get started? And then, just on a whim, I was looking up, like, literally Google search, like studios in Philly, and Boom Room was one of the places that came up, and I was just like cold emailing people.
Oh, okay.
And that's how Gary got me an internship. But yeah, it's definitely here. Like the music and the community and the artists and all the great acts are definitely here. I will say I think you definitely have to look for it though.
You have to look.
Yeah.
You have to look. It's not gonna be on Front Street. Like maybe it might be at other places. Like I feel like New York, even like the underground stuff. It's like, how underground is it? Like I don't know if you like really have to look super hard. You know what I mean? Here we have all that good stuff. You like you were saying, you gotta look for it. But also sometimes that could be what makes it special.
That is true.
Because I think exclusivity, when it comes to that kind of stuff, it can be good because when you have that core group of people that are there because they love the community and they love the music, that's very different than someone who's coming in casually.
Yeah.
Who, is there just to kind of observe, you know what I mean? And not, necessarily really be in it like other people are in it. It can be a little different. I've even noticed that with like different crowds in different places, like people who are more fans of maybe pop culture than like good music, if that makes sense.
No, that does.
I'm a fan of pop culture. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of pop culture.
Oh,
I like pop music.
Yeah.
I like top 40 stuff here and there.
But there definitely is a difference.
Yeah, but there is a difference. So when you get your more like casual environments, I've noticed the behavior of the audience is a little different. Like certain places I've gone, like I just feel like when I go to more like underground kind of stuff that a whole bunch of people don't like necessarily know about, feels like people are a little more like considerate of one another. Like they're a little more like, yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know if it's me. But like when I go to other places where it's like more like mainstreamy, it just feels like people are a little more like stepping on your feet and not saying excuse me.
Oh
and
my
like
God.
it's a lot more of that kind of stuff. Like,
You
so I
just
don't
reminded me of this. Should I tell this story? Yeah, I'll tell the story. What was it? Me, my mom, my dad. No. Me, my mom, and my brother. We went to a what was it? A weekend concert. And my mom is like, shout out mom.
Yeah.
She's a really big like Weekend fan.
Okay. That's cool.
And just like the vibe was just like there. And you could definitely tell the difference between like who was a hardcore like Weekend fan versus like who's just there for like the photo and like,
and then a more casual listener.
Yeah.
They don't really know the music like that.
I just find that so interesting because those tickets cost a grip. And it's like you paid a grip for, you know. I just find that so interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to realize that a lot more people are doing that.
Yeah.
In terms of being a part. I mean, because looking at Beyonce and Renaissance, like the difference between like music concerts and performances being like experiences versus like social events is something that I'm starting to realize a little bit more. So yeah, that's very interesting to me.
Yeah. I definitely think there's a person who's willing to pay that for the social dynamic more than the experience, which that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just different. You know, I think your approach to going to the event is going to be different. Your attitude towards it is going to be different. So, yeah.
Oh God, I could talk forever. I don't know. You wanna leave the people with anything before we head out? Any shout outs?
Yeah, shout out to World Town.
Yes.
Shout out to Bob and Barbara's. So if you want to check me out DJing, I am at Bob and Barbara's, located, what's that, Center City, I guess? Yeah, it's Center City. I'm there every second Saturday of the month. I'm spinning alongside Jan Jeffries, who is on live percussion. I do that every second Saturday of the month, from 5 to 9. And then I do my monthly travel by map with Ben Arsenal and DJ Femi. We do that once a month at Divine Lorraine Broad Hall. So check out my Instagram at Pierre_Paloma. That's PIERE_PALOMA for when the next one is coming up. The next one for this month for Travel by Map is March 16th. That's a Saturday. So if you want to catch me on percussion, that's what I do for that. And what am I working on right now? I'm working on Fazia's album, actually. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Fazia Hart, who's a member of World Town, and also is a really great soul R&B vocalist.
Phenomenal.
She just had a show with Napalm of Hiatus Coyote down at Ardmore Music Hall. She has an album coming out this summer sometime. I'm working on a couple tracks with her on that. And yeah, I think that's it.
Oh my God. Did I get an exclusive? No, I didn't. Because Fazia has been promoting her work for a while. I'm so excited for the music. I did not know that you were going to be on it.
Too.
Yay!
I'm excited too. Yeah, it's definitely been a growth experience as well. She's really been stretching me.
Oh, I love that.
Which is great. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Pierre, for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
This has been a pleasure. So yeah, I will be linking everything Pierre down below in the description. But yes, this has been Pierre. This has been Tiana. Another episode of The Creative Process. We'll see you when we see you.
Hey.
Peace.
Peace.